Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws podcast with East Forest. I'm East Forest. Really happy to be with you today. The snow is coming down here. I'm in Boise, Idaho at the current moment. I don't know about you. I'm kind of ready for winter to be finished doing its thing, but it's clearly not finished. I think I'm going to be heading down to Utah, working on some music stuff. I've been away from there most of the winter, but I think I'm going to be heading down there next week, so wish me luck on my travels. This week, I have a conversation with someone who goes by the name of the Bee Queen, or Tink, and she's someone that I met when Marissa Rada Wepner and I, we were down in Mexico in December in Guanajuato, and a mutual friend of ours, the Bee Queen, has this place down there called the Golden Bee that they rent out, and we were staying there in Guanajuato, Mexico. It's sort of like central Mexico, north of Mexico City, a few hours in the mountains. It's a mining town, really beautiful town, very authentic Mexico. And they have this wonderful place. It's 3 stories, 3 different units that they rent out, and very modern and beautiful, thoughtfully done. So we just had a chance to sit down in the garden because she has a very, very unique and interesting artistic pursuit, ritualistic artistic ambition. It's a whole thing. So I don't want to spoil it. We'll just get into it. And there'll be some links that I'll provide in the show notes if you want to take a look at what the Bee Queen is up to. But before we get into that, just want to say thank you again for everyone out there who's listening to the new Ram Dass East Forest material. We had a really cool review on the iTunes store. Sometimes you can get an editorial review, which I noticed there was one. And if you're willing to hop on the iTunes and give a review of the album or this podcast, they're obviously separate things, it's really helpful. And it's really helpful for people who are thinking of buying, streaming, listening, or just diving in general. So we have a 5-star review here that came in at the end of January about the Ram Dass Chapter 1. And it says, Apple Store review, we can only hope. In a world that seems increasingly divided, this project of 4 parts is already feeling like the antidote to polarization. Ram Dass, the former Harvard professor kicked out of Harvard for his early and turns out correct research on psychedelics, plus best-selling author, has never sounded so urgent, even in his advanced age. Absolutely stunning in every way. 5 stars. I love it. And for those of you who have scrolled down here on the podcast and given reviews, I did see one that came in recently that I just wanted to read to say thank you to Britt Boersma. You wrote 5 stars, taking the path less traveled. I value and appreciate anyone willing to share alternative paths to healing. With the perfect combination of sharing sound and wisdom, I love this podcast. Thank you. Well, you are welcome, Britt Boersma. You're very welcome. Very welcome and very happy that we're having a conversation together, and that's one way you can kind of respond back. You can always just send an email too at info@eastforest.org if you'd like to say hi, send your comments, send your questions. Some of those we will read on the air. Otherwise, we've been continuing to release content around the Ram Dass Chapter 1 that came out. So we've got some videos that are out there. There's a lyric video from Mind Karma that features Trevor Hall. And just today, depending on when you're listening to this, we released a video, another lyric video for Please Pass the Bliss, which is track number 5 on the Chapter 1 East Forest Ram Dass release. Both of these are just really wonderful ways to amplify the content and just see it in fresh ways. So it's really cool to see how you guys are all sharing that online, and thank you for continuing to do so. I just want to let you know about a couple live dates that were added because I would love to see you out there on the road. We're going to be at Tree Fort Music Festival and Yoga Fort, which is inside Tree Fort. I'm opening up the entire Tree Fort Festival with an East Forest ceremony concert, and that, I believe, is on March 20th. I think probably like at 5:30 p.m. at the Shrine, which is a wonderful venue, awesome sound system, really big. And since we're the first thing, the floor should be clean. It's not going to be all nasty from a whole week of festivaling and all that stuff. We are the very first ones in there to start this thing off energetically, to start your time off right. So join us at the Tree Fort Fest in Boise, Idaho, March 20th through 24th. And also at the Tree Fort Music Festival, like that's when Chapter 2 of Ram Dass East Forest comes out. It comes out on March 22nd. So these events at Tree Fort and Yoga Fort are also going to be serving as our release events for the Ram Dass material. So that makes it extra special. Both the one we're doing on March 20th as part of the Tree Fort Fest at the Shrine and Yoga Fort on Friday. We'll be doing another sort of yoga class ceremony type concert on the actual day of the release. And guess what? I think this is really, really cool. I found out that, or I discovered that March 20th, which is when we're doing that ceremony concert at Tree Fort, is the full moon that day. It's also the spring equinox that day. And it's the spring equinox at 4 p.m. Mountain Time that same day. So that's just like a super cool synchronicity that I'm totally in love with. I'll be in Dallas March 30th, Austin March 31st, doing an event in New York City on April 13th, I believe. You can check that out at eastforest.org. All this is at eastforest.org. Chicago, April 20th, be at the Ram Dass Spring Retreat in Maui, May 1st through 6th. The Mammoth Yoga Festival around June 13th. Going back to Esalen for a retreat on the solstice in the summer in June in Big Sur, California. We're doing a release event in Los Angeles on August 9th, and the Science and Non-Duality Conference, I'll be there in October. And it looks like we're going to be bringing back the East Forest Fall Retreat in southern Utah, in my home, at the Boulder Mountain Guest Ranch, and signups for that should go out within days. So if you want to sign up for that, space is limited. Check out the website, eastforest.org, and that's where you do all the stuff and get all the info, and besides social media. So anyway, I just want to get into this talk, and I will catch you on the flip side. Thank you for listening. This is The Bee Queen. Well, I want to ask you a few things, some background, but let me just start out with the preamble of like, give me just a little bit of explanation what this whole Bee Queen thing is. We'll get into how you got into it, but like, what is this for someone who isn't just audio they're hearing? So give me a picture of
right. So you have, if you were there, what would you see?
Sure.
Right.
That's a great place to start.
Okay. Well, I usually call it a blouse of bees. Mm-hmm. So the bees collect around my torso, and they mostly collect in front. And I have the queen with me, or I have a pheromone.
A what?
A pheromone, which is the smell of a queen.
That works?
Yes. It has to be really specifically created. And I have it created at one point by a professor of entomology, but I don't work with him anymore. Now I'm just working with the queen.
Does that mean that the bees in a hive are attracted to that particular queen or any queen?
Exactly. Mostly the particular queen, but if they smell another queen that doesn't have a hive, they'll protect it.
How chivalrous.
Yes, but most of a hive is female. So I think like the Walt Disney media has portrayed bees as male. And so out of a huge hive, you'll have I'm on my body, I usually have 12,000 to 14,000 bees. And out of that will maybe be 400 male bees. So that gives you the idea.
That's typical ratio.
Yeah.
Huh.
There's really...
bees make more bees by having sex male-female?
No, only the queen. Only the queen, and she mates once. And there's a certain point in the sky where the bees will go up. The queen bee will go up to this certain place in the sky and mate once.
With one bee?
With many male bees. Many male bees.
It's a big bee orgy in the sky.
It is, yeah.
They're
It's
all
kind
the
of...
dad.
They get their penises ripped off and stuck inside her.
They die?
Yes.
Oh my God. This is super
But
intense.
she is always fertile.
So she can do this anytime she wants.
I think she can lay up to 3,000 eggs a day for up to 3 to 5 years if she's a healthy queen. Queens are kind of lasting a little less now because lots of queens are being artificially impregnated.
How the hell is that happen? How does that work? By humans?
By humans, yeah. Because
they're trying to make honey?
they're just trying to produce it. It's like becoming the mad cow disease.
It doesn't
Same problem.
seem easy to do.
No, I don't think so. Well, people do, some people just create queen bees. So you can build a hive, which is called a nuke, a little hive, so you can sell it to beekeepers when they need to replace a hive.
Okay, so...
Well, that's...
No, I mean, I'm kind of ignorant about... I know bee stuff is actually really fascinating.
There's so much. There's so much. But as far as what you see when I have all the bees on my body is this human being still with all this external movement. So for me, as a healer and somebody who practices kind of diving into cellular systems on an energetic level with people, it was the first time I did it. It was the first time I saw what it was like to have the cells expanded so far in the body that you could move in between them.
Because it sort of looks like your entire torso, even your head, except for your face, is all bees.
Right.
So the bee must be thinking... I mean, they're not trying to who can get closest to the queen. They kind of understand the queen is on this system, and we just need to be...
I'm like a tree.
Yeah.
So when they
normally
swarm...
they build a hive, right?
Right, but
Are they building on you?
Sometimes I'll have my earrings on, and after a dance, I'll have wax,
that
around...
quickly?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, so when a hive splits and it makes a new hive and a queen is born and there's two queens and one queen leaves and one queen stays, they swarm. So they leave that hive and look for another home. So in a swarming time, they can sit on a branch for maybe 3 days while they send out scouts looking for another house.
What's a house?
A hollow log.
A good branch or something? Or
No,
whatever.
something hollow and safe, normally. So a hollow log inside of a house or another hive. Sometimes I've had the swarm just move into an empty hive.
I've had friends in Portland who wanted bees, but they're so like Portland that they wanted wild bees. So they're always looking for a hive like that that's waiting for them. There it is. We gotta go get a ladder. We gotta get this is it. This is the moment, and they want to capture. They want to bring them to their place.
That's so funny. I can see it. Well, there are some people now that are making hives in tree trunks or saving trees that someone's going to take out the tree and there's a hive. And so they bring the part of the trunk to their house. But so the bees are used to, being on a tree for a while, looking for another home. So it's kind of that glomming onto me.
Yeah.
As I think they just think, oh, well, this is a moving branch. I'm sort of a moving branch.
Wind.
Yeah.
If you move too quickly, do they go off?
They make a
and come
different
back?
sound, so then I know when to slow down.
But
They
the
kind of
sound
get
is like the kind of movement or actual.
no, they just get a
wings?
higher pitch, and then I'm like, oh, okay, slow down.
They don't have vocal cords though, do they? You think the pitch is the wings, like a cricket makes the?
I really think it's. I always thought it was coming from inside them.
Maybe
So
a purr.
yeah.
So, what does it feel like having that on you?
Well, it's not very comfortable. It's
In what sense?
very hot, and the first layer grabs on because I'm not wearing any clothes or on my torso. I'm usually wearing pants or a long skirt. And so they grab on with their little feet, kind of like if they were holding on to edge of a flower petal, trying to gather pollen. And it's a little itchy. It's
movement, right?
Right.
It's like
People
all these
think
micro movements.
People think it's ticklish, but it's not really ticklish. It's more of an itchy thing, especially when they sort of get around the back of my head and grab onto my hair. But it's such a I've over the years, I'm not even noticing it as much, but it's taken years to find the place where it's more of a symbiosis in the discomfort.
What does it feel like though, non-physically, like energetically?
like I'm being lifted up. And sometimes I've had hives that the motion is left to right and right to left this way. And I've had danced with hives that have gone from like the bottom to the top where like my torso feels like it's being stretched and then pushed down, kind of like being in the water. And when you're in the water and you push against the waves or you push against the water, that kind of magnetic pull.
Is there a weight to it?
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm wearing about 3 to 4.5 pounds of bees, but it feels heavier. And when they shift, when they fly on one side and they shift, then they shift my torso. It's a duet, so we're pushing and pulling together.
And the queen is in a pendant or a box?
Yeah,
is the
it's
queen
about
upset about this?
4 or 5 inches.
Queen can't get out?
No, but I put little nursemaids or girls in there with her. She's not by herself.
Female bees?
Yeah. Mostly female bees.
How do you I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. There's like a honeybee style box hive, and you have to find the queen in there, gently take her out. Do you have to smoke them out, the bees, or?
We try not to use smoke. That's irritating. So
that kind of anesthetizes them, right?
Well, I think it's sort of. This is my understanding. Is it puts in that there's a forest fire kind of sense. How do you like hunker down or protect yourself? I mean, I think that's where it probably started. Now we don't even really wear protection when we're working with our bees.
So when you say you're working with a beekeeper?
Oh, me or my partner, if we are dancing with one of our own hives. Sometimes we dance with other people's hives. And Theodore, my partner, is my bee wrangler, helper.
Is he wearing anything, or he just rolls with it too?
Yeah, he usually actually takes off his shirt while he's helping me find the queen, or...
Do you guys get stung a lot?
Sometimes.
A little bit? Or like a lot?
Well, I've been stung during a performance, if you call it that. No, it's more of an experience. Up to 16 times, and then other times like 3 or 4. So it, it's a lot has to do with weather conditions. Like if it's windy, there's one time we had a hive that was really hard for them to land because it was windy, and then we were too near a tree and they went up in a tree. So it was more about the conditions of the space. And so I've learned, we need a big field space, no trees, and it's taken a while to figure out what works best.
It's a lot of extra work just to do what you want to do.
Right.
I mean, there's so many different pieces of conditions, let alone having to get the bees locally.
Right. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
It takes me months to set it up.
So where did the genesis of this idea come from? Because what is the intention of this creation? You're doing it for other people. So there's something I'm assuming you want to impart to them, an experience you're trying to engender. What is that?
Well, it's changed a lot. The first time I did it was in 2001 for an art piece I was doing with a friend, and it was a piece about society and greed. And so we did the photo shoot with myself and the bees, and there was no one else there. And the ending of the piece was a 6,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, which is about almost 7 feet by 43 inches. And the image was myself in a pristine Beaverton cul-de-sac with perfect little houses.
Beaverton,
Oregon,
Portland.
Yeah,
it's where all the Nike people live.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so all these houses and me dancing in the middle, covered in bees. And it was about how all these houses, they all have their own blender and their own table saw, and how do we share, and how do we, here's this hive that is almost like one organ working together, constantly caring for each other. So that was the...
Were you doing the puzzle, or...
No. It was actually a puzzle, 6,000-piece puzzle, jigsaw puzzle.
Like created or how?
I worked with the company to have them create this one puzzle for me. So it was a collage. I mean, many layers of photos, collage, hand-painted sections, and then I sent it away to this place in New York, and they cut it for me.
I want to make a puzzle. It's funny with some album art coming this year. I think it's a cool meditation in itself.
Yeah.
Depending on the imagery.
Right.
There's sort of like a sigil magic going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a whole nother process. It was so hard to find someone to work with. And then we had a whole bunch of other imagery, and they're like, that's too bloody. Oh my gosh, there's a penis in that one. I could never find anyone to work with. I kind of had to I did 4 huge pieces, and then I have a lot in the computer still because I haven't quite found the right company.
So you're still working with puzzles as part of your piece?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of over here.
Where's the edge that you're at now with it?
Now what we're doing with the bee dance, the second bee dance was for the movie Queen of the Sun, which is about biodynamic beekeeping all over the world with the director Taggart Siegel. And then the third one was a dance where I asked different performance artists to just improv with me. And then I created a video, and that video really became more about, feeling a little like angry on the side of the bees and like asking people to get their shit together. How are we gonna like protect
in respect
the bees?
to bee decline?
Yeah. And then I started wanting to integrate my energy work with the bees. So we started doing the bee dance healing rings for the last 3 dances. And that is inviting people to come to me first and have a session and let me know what their focus is on. And lots of people were afraid of bees. Some people felt really disconnected from nature. Some people actually had physical problems, maybe a hip problem or, so many different physical things that they wanted to focus on. So it was about bringing a chance to have like a real aha moment to notice that we are really all together in this and we're all one. And it's amazing to watch people's faces. At first they're afraid, then they're perplexed, and then they're enlightened. There's like this aha moment that's so awesome to watch. And then some people just cry, and some people don't know how to react, and some people have to think about it.
So you're doing
for
energy
quite a while.
Work there's lots of people watching.
Right.
You're outside, and you said you're doing this with them. You're not speaking.
No.
But you're covered in bees.
Right.
And it's got to be a very intense, energetic experience.
Right, and we're just looking eye to eye.
10,000 plus bees.
Right.
And you're just.
How do you bring like the most open up to bringing in the superhero like energy? Like how do you allow yourself? You just have to like step into it and be like, here I am. Let's just do it.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about energy healing in general because you were doing that for many years, right?
Yeah, I've been doing that for
you still do
28 years.
And what does that mean to you?
Okay. Well, I think each person is different, but there are specific things that reoccur. So I think it depends on what each individual wants to work on. Mm-hmm. So if it's a physical thing, then for me it's like diving into the body and pulling out stagnant energy and making energy flow to that area so it can specifically heal faster and more. What's the word? Like just pinpointed. Kind of like you get the energy there instead of it diverting itself. So my work is really cleaning out channels, helping people to the word I'm trying to find is kind of revisualize.
Is your individual process or internal process one of visualization?
Often, yeah. So, because I'll get little pictures, I'll be like, oh, this looks like something is shattered on the left side. Is this where it hurts? And normally people are like, okay, yeah, it hurts there. And we can pull the pain out. So it actually sort of extends out of the body. So it has a place to exit. So when I run my hands over a certain area and I know that, and I can pick up the trauma of an area, my right hand shakes crazy. My left hand is sort of my volume control. So I can like sort of turn up the volume or turn down the volume.
Like a theremin.
Yeah, it totally is. I so relate to the theremin when I see it. I'm like, oh, I need one of those. I'm kind of old.
Do it at the same time. It'd be amazing.
I would love to play with one, actually. That makes me excited.
You can buy theremin kits and just put it together.
Oh, I'll have Theodore do that for me.
Yeah.
He'll love that project. So,
well, how did you? I mean, was it a natural inclination?
It's kind of funny. When I was 17, my best friend wanted me to go to Reiki 1 with her, and we went, and I was really turned off by it, actually. And we were the youngest people there, and there was a big circle of probably people in their 30s, but to me, they were like so old, you know. And it was Portland, you know, back in the sort of more even hippie days.
Yeah.
And they're like, I just want to be a healer.
There was nothing so cool.
I know, totally. I just want to be a healer. And I was so turned off. I was like, you can't ask for that. Just like
that was your just point of view. At
yeah, it's like, how could you ask to be that? That seems so arrogant. And, you know, yeah. So I left there, but my friend was like, let's practice. And so we would practice, and then we went on a road trip a couple years later, and we're like, let's work on the engine, and we got better gas mileage. And we're like, oh yeah. So we were like getting better gas mileage, and then in college I would help people, and they would say, like, what? Could you help me with that thing again? And I was like, shave your head, you know? And they're like, no, the other thing. Like, my headaches are gone. I had one person that like stopped doing some really heavy drugs.
So it started from Reiki as your foundation.
Yeah, but I really just let go of that right away. Yeah. You know, it's like, and now.
What did you drop from Reiki or move away from?
Just like the placement, like this is how you place everything, and this is. Yeah, I just really, I just...
You made it your own.
Yeah, I had for a while this very big male voice that would talk to me. And it would say, go to the right knee. So I'd work on the right knee. And then that voice has disappeared. Years and years ago. Now it's just like...
feeling? In
yeah.
sense?
Oh, it's just... This is what we do. Uh-huh. It's a really we thing. I kind of, when I talk about at work, it's we, it's me, the person, and the third that's being developed in the action of doing the work.
Third, that's interesting.
Same with, if you're painting with somebody, there's always the third that creates the painting.
I love that. You see that different as the muse, different than what we might consider the muse?
Yeah.
Or it's the energy of creation or the creation itself?
The end factor is the third.
Mm-hmm. You're an artist as well.
Yeah.
Right? What you did some glass work, you paint.
Yep. I used to do public art with my mom, terrazzo, floors and bronze.
What's your mom's name?
Liz Mapelli. And she was really well known for her big public art glass pieces.
And she's down the street now.
Yeah.
Here in Guanajuato.
Yes. And she's now a printmaker.
That's her. Oh, that's what she's into?
Yeah. She shifted into a flexible, lightweight medium instead of heavy, sharp glass. Yeah, so I grew up with glass makers, and we had a furnace in the barn I grew up near. So yeah, I grew up around a lot of creativity. And
yeah.
I went to a one-room schoolhouse.
In Oregon Coast, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be a trip living out there. Did the weather affect you much? The gray?
No, I think I just grew up with it, so I didn't know the difference. And now I know you can be somewhere in the winter and you don't have to wear a hat all year.
And the sun, too. Just the
sun.
vitamin D aspect.
Right.
I know for me, growing up in Oregon, it was hard.
Yeah, I
didn't know, but I felt the effects. And so later I was able to put the dots together.
Right. No, I think I just was always happy in my own imagination. You know, I was really an only child on 11 acres and basically, you know, go play in the woods, go hang out with the goats. So really, I was fine outside in the trees. I spent so much time in the trees.
Do you miss the ocean? I mean,
No, for some reason, I don't. Because I think I grew up near it. And it's kind of one of those things, like I live in the gorge, but I don't go hiking in the gorge because I live in the gorge. So,
I've done a lot of hiking in the
yeah.
gorge.
Yeah. I used to more, but now less.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what else?
Well, I just trying to get some background about
I love it.
how this whole bee thing came together. You know, that you're an artist and where you kind of came from, and like I'm trying to see if there's a connection point between not just it as an artistic idea, but it's sort of it's melding together your sort of the creativity that seems to be a core part of how you grew up,
Right.
and your energy work. But then there's something there that I'm not quite picking up on about like
The leap?
how this all comes together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I understand like,
It's
the imagery
it's
of it.
basically the unfolding,
Well,
right?
it's so difficult
For me.
to do. So it's just like it's such a difficult thing you've chosen to.
Right. I like a challenge, I guess. I guess that's, I mean, I don't think of it as a challenge, but it is. It's a lot of work to make happen. And
It's been filmed a couple times.
Yeah. 5.
Well, that's actually people can see.
Yeah.
YouTube,
on
mostly.
YouTube, yeah. Be Dancer, Be Queen. And we're coming out with some new videos within the next week.
Huh.
We're going to put up one video, and then I'm going to work on doing some other stuff from the last dance, where we had 86 people in a big circle in a really amazing field out in Portland, Oregon area, Corbett,
yeah. And tell me about just coming to Mexico. Like you've been here a few years, and we're sitting in the garden of your. Well, I guess this is your guest house, really, right? You
Yeah.
live here too sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I live
And
here.
you built this a few years ago.
Yep, we finished about 2 years ago, so it took us about 6 years to build, and it's called the Golden Bee, and you can find this on Airbnb.
How come you don't have bees here, like down there?
Well, we thought about having bees here, but we didn't want to. Some of the bees here have started to Africanize, and they've just gotten a little bit more aggressive. It's a more of aggressive
It's
bee.
go loco.
No, it's an aggressive bee that's kind of moving up.
So a different bee.
Yeah, it's a different bee. They take over hives.
Oh.
And I had a person I talked to in San Miguel who had lots of bees in the town and finally had to move out because the bees were getting more aggressive. And plus, this garden is full of bees. And there's tons of native bees. I'm always amazed how many different bees are here. So I know there's a hive somewhere near.
Sure.
So that's been really great. I'm like, well, somewhere there's a honeybee hive close by. Right now we're just integrating having more plants for bees. If we lived here for full time, yeah. If we lived here full time, we would.
Is there any sort of regularity to it?
No.
Fair
It's
amount, though.
very inconsistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you find is there a commonality between the people who are Americans who moved down here, like your friends and people you've met? Do you see a common thread in the motivations?
Well.
Or something about their personality?
Well, most people I've met are really liberal and creative people, and they've come from creative jobs, you know, and lots of them have retired from really creative jobs and have come here to just sort of more hunker down and do things for themselves.
So maybe the cheaper cost of living is an exciting way for them to just hunker down and
Yeah.
not have to stress too much.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a little bit of income coming in, like I can live on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I've
find
met
any of
some
them
really
are
interesting people.
Escaping something? or anything
Trump?
Like that? Yeah.
I think now people are
Besides the
really
obvious, yeah.
people are really escaping Trump.
Including the Mexicans in America.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they're really, I think people are really disappointed that
it's
that's
embarrassing.
something we have to, you know, be part of, in quotes.
Does it come up a lot in local conversation?
It's starting to. I mean, like, I haven't been here for a couple weeks,
Yeah.
but when I was there last year, that's all everyone talked about.
Just like, what the hell?
And you know, you're just constantly apologizing. I'm sorry that there's this fucked up person
Yeah.
that thinks that they can do anything they want and say the most absurd things.
Nations are so strange, too. The fact that it's like someone says, you, but it's not you. It's like this country, this government,
right.
but you. It's they call it you. And it's like you and your people. It's like, look, I
exactly.
live in America. I'm an American. I grew up there, but we're both just people on this continent of North America.
Right, and that's the sad thing is it's all one place to me, and that's one reason for me the bee dance is about giving people the opportunity to notice that we're all together and to be witnessed by 12,000 sets of eyes witnessing you. And there's this thing that happens, people go, oh, wow, wait, I am a cell. I am the cell that makes up the wholeness of this place and this universe. This morning I was thinking about how we're running out of sand. Have you heard about that?
No. Wait, this is another crisis?
Yeah, no, it's really actually amazing that we're running out of sand to build with because we've been doing so much construction. And I think I'm not...
Did you mean to make like concrete and
yeah,
mortar,
right. So now they're trying to figure out like what's a different thing we can use besides concrete. And I thought, well, if you magnify sand, have you ever seen a picture of sand magnified? It is amazing.
Rocks, right?
No, it's like coral and agates and all these different components that come from all over. They're being swept through the ocean, right? Mm-hmm. And it looks like if you magnify pollen, those are all different from every flower has a different type of pollen shape. So you can't recreate honey or pollen or like so you can't really recreate sand. They haven't figured out how to recreate sand. It's so complicated, just as honey, pollen, or... So I've just been thinking about that today. Like, well, of course they can't recreate it. It's so old and mixed up.
What other analogies do you see between this idea of the bees, collective, a cell, to maybe other things going through collectively as humanity? Because bees are so rich in their behavior and uniqueness and
their architecture.
They have all. They do have all these inherent analogies in the way they make. We use it all the time, I think, in conversation.
Right.
You can say you're a busy bee.
Right. The beeline.
The beeline.
Which is really like, if they are mad at you, they will follow you. And then you can turn the corner and they're like, ooh, I'm in your face.
Yeah.
So they know you.
And it's an integral part of our food chain.
Right. Oh, yeah.
There's a lot that I know. Well, sorry, I don't want to skip this question I just asked. So, yeah, do you have anything that's come up for you, even intuitively or creatively, artistically, or like, oh, yeah, I'm just seeing how that's a wonderful representation of like something else in our human life?
Right. Well, let's go back to that.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Because I had another thought that I don't want to lose, which...
That's lost.
Which is food and... Oh, well, recently I had a hive that was extremely strong, and then my road crew on my small little country road sprayed, and the bees died.
Like road pesticides?
Yeah.
Weeds?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, well, how is the best way to save the bees right now? Because you can't control who's spraying close to you. And they need like a 5-mile radius. So the best thing for them is to, have lots of land for bees, which is protected, so that they can actually heal.
Yeah, like wilderness forests and stuff would be good.
Right.
Where it's all protected.
Exactly.
Land.
So, it's really hard to be a beekeeper now. You can't control what your neighbors are doing. And you can't control people within a 5-mile radius to do anything.
Right. You
can complain as much as you want to, but they'll still sneak it in. I mean, I've heard that story over and over and over from so many friends. So I guess if we want to protect our food stores, we need to set up areas of protection for the bees.
Well, I've only been casually following the reasons why I've sort of read here and there about bee collapse, but do you know if there is an actual more definitive answer at this point?
Well,
I've heard a lot.
I think really it's the pesticides and also I'm hearing about cell phones. So you definitely have to be cell phone tower free zones. I mean, lots of countries are doing some great things. They're making I'm not sure if it's Norway, I'm not positive, but sort of bee highways where there's food, planted for bees, and this is a bee highway section. I mean, I think that's really awesome. Yeah, I mean, really, we just need to give the planet a break on,
From us?
yeah, pouring poison on it.
Yeah.
If we could just give them a chance to regroup. There was a little post on Facebook about a new, vaccine kind of thing for bees for the plight, for the collapse.
Good luck with that.
And I thought, really, the answer is you just have to stop poisoning the planet, and then things can regroup.
It's a Tower of Babel usually when it's like one fix to another fix.
Exactly.
To another fix.
It's sad.
I also heard about artificial bees.
Yeah, me too.
Which is like the craziest thing I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely areas where they have to hand pollinate everything now.
That seems insane.
Yeah.
I also heard about, I was making bee candles with beeswax.
Oh, yeah?
In Boulder. And the guy was telling me that to get one drop of beeswax, something like 1,000 trips to a flower.
Right. Something crazy.
An
yeah.
insane amount of energy a bee goes through to create that little amount.
Right. Well, a tenth of a teaspoon is one bee's life. So when you go to the store, not the store, but the restaurant, and they give you a little glop of honey in a container, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I take this home? I'll just eat the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had some good honey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the people serving that don't have any idea.
Of course not.
They're just bleh.
Yeah. Do you, is eating, have you ever experiment with that as part of this experience that you're doing, like ingesting honey?
Different honeys?
Yeah.
Oh, I love to.
I
love to try different honeys.
Yeah.
Like buckwheat honey is really pungent and a little bit bitter. And a few years ago, I went and visited a beekeeper a few miles away outside of Guanajuato, and I gave her one of my stickers, and she said, "Oh, we're the same person." So sweet. And she collected her hives were mostly from mesquite honey, which is really sort of more musky, yeah. And then she had another honey that was all from the cactus flowers, and it was 18 different cactuses, and that one was so fruity. So it's really a lovely thing. And people send me honey, which I really love. Like, try my honey.
How do you find the bees? Because you're an NG worker, I'm sure this is the case, but the communication with you, obviously in the experience itself, it sounds like it's deep and intuitive and it's a moving thing. But do you ever have other forms?
Oh, I had a couple of bees talk in my ear and speak English.
Okay.
And that was really a shock. I was like, what?
And what they had to say? Or is this confidential conversation?
I don't know if it is, because it was based on someone's work and I was working with her. But I can say what they said, and then later I asked somebody about it, and they confirmed that's how it really does work.
Did they have a bee voice, like in the movie Jerry Seinfeld?
It was really high and squeaky and buzzy, like that. But it was precise words, and it was shocking. And at the same time, I was like, well, of course, we're starting to understand each other. And that was amazing and awesome, and yeah.
Wow. Well, this podcast is called 10 Laws, and that references a song I have that a friend of mine sort of riffs on, sort of like some guidelines he came up with in his own life that kind of keep his life sailing straight, sort of like what's important to him.
Right. And
you're someone who sounds like from your early childhood has led an intrepid path and sort of done your own thing. A lot of self-confidence your parents got in you, which is great. And
when you say I can't do it, then I will.
Good to know. So I bet you can't tell me some things in your own life that have just kind of helped you like walk your path, or like something that you've been like, man, if I would have known this when I was younger, or this is what I did figure out when I was younger, in line of like your own tenets. Do you have any?
Well, I've always been somebody who's never drank alcohol or done any drugs or experimented with anything in my whole life.
Psychedelic? You're totally tripping anyway, right?
Yeah. I have so much information coming in that I can't even get it out. So yeah.
What about caffeine?
Oh yeah. Well, I did start drinking black tea probably about after I got back from China, after I had so much green tea, I was able to handle black tea.
Tobacco?
No, I have I Sundance, so I had to smoke the chanupa.
Yeah.
And but that's willow bark, so it's kind of, aspirin. So that was my first experience smoking anything.
So you were saying you're someone who you haven't indulged with bending your consciousness with plants much.
No,
Chemicals.
It's more about, I really grew up in the woods by myself. I didn't have siblings. My friends lived 10 miles away. So I spent a lot of time just hanging out with the trees. And I think that just made sense. I talked to the trees. I grew up talking to inanimate objects because I could tell they were alive, even though they were still. My mom always said, you are your own God. You do whatever you want. You're your own God. And was a helpful thing to be raised with.
Yeah. And to feel that.
Yeah.
And kind of understand.
Or be supported.
Means. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say. It's another thing to then go at the experience of it.
Right.
So you're saying that kind of in an early state engendered you.
Yeah, I had this one corner that we would drive around in the coast. It's very curvy. Old Highway 101. And at age probably 5, I called it the infinity corner. Because every time we went around the corner, I would think about what was before us, what was before space, because space couldn't exist without space. So it was my
chicken or the egg.
Yeah, it was my spot where I always had that. Every time we drove around that corner, I was like, oh, it's the infinity corner, So I think I always felt connected to everything at the same time.
Do you feel human?
No. I have to play it. I have to play it. It's so frustrating. Sometimes I'm like, stop playing human.
Is coming to Mexican stuff, is it helpful for you to kind of just break out of sort of square paradigms of America? Or
no.
There's no difference?
No.
Yeah. It's just Earth.
I've traveled
density.
My whole life, I've been backpacked through India and spent time in Indonesia, at age 20, just backpacked around the world. And for me, that was just noticing that we're all the same. Mm-hmm. We're just in different fluxes of almost a timeline. Because often I'm back in the past. Oh, wow, I'm in the future at the same time.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking once about how it's, the notion that there's just the present moment. So here we are in this thing that just is, this moment. It's always been that moment. So everything in the quote past was this moment.
Right, exactly.
So someone here in Mexico as an Indian right here on this land was this moment.
Or still there. We're just doing it. Sometimes I wonder who I'm walking through. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I feel you. You're...
Timelines intersecting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, time is actually just our perception of movement.
Right. And a lot of times lately, no pun intended, that was funny, I'm thinking of what I just did to prepare myself for the next thing. So what did I just finish and how am I preparing myself for something that's building?
Is there a pain in that, or are you saying
I'm just noticing what is it that I'm preparing myself at, and in this moment I feel like I'm in a huge transition. So what am I preparing myself for? I'm kind of in this hibernating energetic spot, and that is to bring the bee dance to Europe in June and to start getting out of the States and bring the bee queen. She's ready. She's been ready to leave the U.S. for a long time. So we're ready. So maybe June we'll be in Italy and maybe in England.
Yeah. So you got to do it in warmer times. Huh?
Yeah. That's gonna be hard in England, right? Yeah. I need a little helper.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, feels good.
What else can we say? What else?
I mean, I could ask you some really bizarre questions, but I mean...
Go ahead. You don't have to use them, right?
Oh, I use everything.
Oh, okay.
I don't edit this. Do you have any sense personally of why you're here?
Well,
It's
I think really, no. I think,
philosophical
no, it's not
question,
really.
but-
I think my job has always been to inspire other people
Okay.
and to inspire people to to be authentic to themselves.
And how does that relate to going one step behind that, to even the why?
The why?
Well, this is coming out of the response.
You know,
of
I
not
never liked it
feeling
when
so
people said,
human.
why do you do that? I've never liked that
And the
question.
why is irrelevant?
And yeah, it always made me mad. I mean, like, why not? Because how do you get anywhere if you're always going for the why? It's more like have the experience. I had this one friend who always wanted to talk about, you know, why are we on the planet? What's going on? And I thought, you know, you're not experiencing the planet. You're stepping away from like diving in and jumping in and having the experience.
So the planet is the crucible.
The planet
For-
or the universe or
Right.
right?
There's no why. It's more like it's the isness of.
Yeah. People would say, why do you bee dance? I said, well, ask me how it feels. Because it's about
Did I
the
ask you that?
sensation.
I
Yes,
hope I
you did.
Okay.
Yes, you did. It's the sensation about this experience. And like, how often do you get to be in oneness
I mean,
with something
it's the
else?
Wildest. Just thinking about the feeling of it, and the feeling of someone having that right in front, and then doing energy.
And we didn't even talk about the sound.
Oh,
we
which
didn't even
is
talk
my
about
thing,
the sound.
which is my thing.
I
What does it
know.
sound like?
What are we doing
Besides
here?
bees, I mean,
It's like
loud?
it's very loud. And so last dance I was brought in by Brazilian Ukrainian fusion music, and they brought me to the circle. And then we had Michael Sterling, who sings raga, singing for me. And he was singing songs specifically about honey and prayers about sky and honey. And one of the songs actually is like, starts with bee, you know, so it's like the word bee is in the song. But when he would, you know, stop and pause, you could hear the bees. So for me, it's like being inside a tornado. I mean, I've said that for so many years, but it's still the same. Being inside a tornado, and then they settle down. When they're landing in my body, they're settling down, they're gripping on, and then like a couple hundred are like still going out and checking out everyone else and kind of walking on them, and then they jump back on me, and they, you know, the closer I get to someone, the louder it is, and then so
when
there's
you
just
come up to someone, are they getting bees all over them?
sometimes.
You just tell them in advance, like, just chill.
Oh yeah.
People are probably a little afraid.
I had this one guy a few years ago sitting, and a clump of bees sort of like sloughed off onto the ground near him. And he was like, frozen. I was like, I just like scooped them back up. And they just came back up. And I think he was totally changed after that, because he came back the next time. He's like, I'm back. I'm getting repeat people coming back because they're like, wow, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think there's
So.
a lot you could do with it. I mean, just by
Yeah.
itself, it's such a profound.
Right.
Image-
And really,
image and
I really
experience.
want to bring in, last time I brought in, everybody brought a dish of food that was pollinated by bees. So they had to think about the bees before they got there. Not only their own personal intention, but like, okay, I'm actually going to make some food based on
Bees are
bees.
such a big part of food.
Right,
Right. That it
right.
makes sense that the experience involves something you ingest. You know,
Exactly.
this is alchemy and a chemical reaction with that. And
Right.
you could use in medicinal foods in a sense that are kind of sugar does that. It changes your consciousness. There's
Exactly.
all sorts of things you can do.
So we
Cool
had
to
this
eat honey.
beautiful, well, then the bees want it and they get stuck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
Okay,
would be bad.
people don't realize that they aren't like, when they're making honey, they make it thick by moving their wings really fast, and they thicken up the nectar, and then they close it, you know, so they have food for winter. So it's like they're really careful when they're eating honey. It's like, but if they land in honey, then they're like stuck.
Yeah, when I was making the candles, bees would come and
Oh, yeah.
bomb into it and get stuck into the wax.
Oh, I know, because the smell is so like home. It's their
Smelled
home, right?
wonderful. Yeah.
So yeah, we had a huge table for 80 people, one long table, and we set it really beautifully, and people ate together, and we passed dishes around, and people sat and ate. And then we had our beautiful bee dance occurrence. I like to call it an occurrence.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I went out and sat at a table, and people came and sat with me. And I really want to feed people. So next time or sometime soon, I'd like to have a huge table where I get to feed people with the bees.
That's awesome.
So that's one of my biggest visions, or maybe a huge table that is a stage that I can feed people and dance at the same time.
Sounds like Europe.
So I have, I think 20s. I mean, I think Europe, Europe has like, there's something different in the mentality of Europeans that is more accepting and less critical than
especially
the Americans.
Art.
In the art and in noticing in a practical, spiritual way. Mm-hmm. That sometimes I find.
In a practical, spiritual way.
Yeah.
Why not?
Right. Well, I was raised by very practical Swedes, and then my father's family is Italian, so sometimes I feel very Swedish, and sometimes I feel very Italian. It just depends. I'm like, oh, there's the Swede blood boiling up, and there's the Italian blood. I think I'm really looking forward to Europe.
Well, I'm looking forward to people interfacing with your work. It's nice that you can film it and kind of transmute it into the visual, because it can reach so many more people too.
Right.
I'm sure the experience itself is unique to itself, but that's special for only so many people.
Right.
That's great. Well, I enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
Do you have a website or Instagram or anything like that?
On Instagram, you can find me at Sarah.
SARA.
Yeah, Tink Bee Queen, I think. I don't have to tell people often.
Page. All right.
And then I'm at sarahmapellibeequeen.com, which is MAP.
MAP.
ELLI.
Okay, cool. I'll have there's a link in the show notes, but
we can do a link, and we can do a link to a video
or something.
Yeah, the new video, the short one.
Well, send me that, and we'll put it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Super.
I love it.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Listening to that just takes me back to sitting in the garden with her in the sun. I think it was around 70 degrees. In the winter in Mexico, it was such a sweet feeling with all being in Mexico. I don't know if you've been out there. It was my sort of first real time being there. I was struck by obviously all the noise. There's a lot of people playing radios and music all the time, dogs on roofs barking all the time, all night. And this is an old mining town, so they're always blowing shit up. So there's always something exploding at some time or another. Just M80s walking around, people just blowing things up, because that's how they do. So that definitely took me back. This song you're hearing in the background is interval number 3 from the album Karen featuring Keith Sweaty. That's an album that I did with my friend Keith Sweaty, and you can catch that wherever you listen to music. Thank you again for listening to the podcast. Thank you for giving it a 5-star review. Even better, just type in a couple sentences about what you're enjoying about this podcast. And if you're enjoying the Ram Dass record on Spotify or iTunes, reviews on iTunes and sharing it on social media makes a big difference. And tell us about your experience. Tell us online. And you can just do a little hashtag. We've been using the East Forest X Ram Dass as a way to see it. But you can also just tag East Forest, and we'll probably share your stories and your posts on my channel as well. All right, folks, I'll hit you soon. I'll give you updates on what's what else is coming down the pike. But for now, you keep walking your walk. You don't take any shit. And if you do, you know what to do. You do it with grace. May the forest be with you.